Alright, now let's do the fun part. Now we're going to do a walkthrough tutorial, basically how to make your own template. We're going to start with, in this video, we're going to start with just getting it set up, getting it ready, and each video we'll just grow upon it until you end up with a simple template. I'm just going to be using mostly out-of-the-box stuff from Substance Designer. I'll probably use some of my own nodes. Feel free to create whatever you want. I'll also be making this model available. I'll leave it on my Dropbox with a link to it, so you can download the model. The model was made very quickly, very dirty, just example sake, but have fun with it. So the first thing I did is went to Max, made my model, and then rendered out my bakes. Now the main bakes we need is an AO and a normal map out of Max, or whatever baking program you use. Next thing you'll need to do at some point is make a mask, and this is going to drive everything that you do. And this is where fast iteration comes into. If you have a mask template pattern like I was talking about, if you have something like this, you can switch between your stuff very quickly and update it in Substance Designer, and it'll just change out. In this case, we're only going to deal with the materials we're using. We're not going to make some huge library template here. This is just, again, an example. So why do we bring stuff into Photoshop and not just use SVG nodes? Is because there's certain things that I feel are just easier to do in Photoshop, and the end product, like if you end up doing edits and stuff like that, you end up in Photoshop anyways. So I'm not trying to fight Photoshop, neither. I don't feel Substance Designer or Algorithmic is either. If it's easier to do it this way, do it this way. And then you can load your maps in later into Photoshop, and everything can just go ahead and be in a layer. So what we usually do, we'll bring it in. Again, we have our diffuse here. Sometimes we'll make our own custom diffuse. Right now we're not going to worry about that. And then mask and so on and so forth, our basic layer situation that we have. At the top, we usually put the end things that will be going into Substance Designer, so we'll copy it. So even though normal maps are in here, maybe this layer is really big because we have a bunch of corrections, so we can just copy and paste it here, name it normal, collapse it. It'll update in Substance Designer. The way it works, which I'll show you while we're working, the way it works is that it'll remember this layer's name and its position. So as long as you name it the same thing, resave your file, it'll then update in Substance Designer. So in the actual Substance Designer folder at the top, we have a collapsed emissive, our AO that we'll be using, our mmap, and our normal map. Okay? So once you have that, you can go ahead and move into Substance Designer. So here we are. Go ahead and start a new project here, or a new substance. We'll just call this our test tech wall. Actually, let's not call it test. Let's just call it tech wall 01. Alright, and that's going to be the name of our graph. We're going to do this at 2048 and 2048. Okay. So this is the starting of our graph. Now, what did we forget to do? We forgot to make it PBR. So we'll go to shader. Set to physically based. Go and delete those and recreate those in a second. That was my mistake. By rights, what we could do here is just go ahead and go to new graph. Go ahead and do a new tech wall. Change it from standard to physically based. 2048, 2048. It's easier to change it now. We'll call it 02. Go ahead and delete this one. Rename. Alright. So now let's bring in our resources right off the bat just to make it simple. So we'll just go ahead and link 3D mesh. We will go to our wall example. Test plate. So here goes our FBX. So go ahead and double click that. Now we have our mesh. For our PSD, we'll go ahead and just drag and drop our PSD in here. Okay? Just go ahead and do this, link resource. Importing resource means it's actually imported into it. If you link it, that means it'll take on the updates. So the best thing to do is usually to hit none to clear all the layers. If you have like 100 something layers, you don't want to select all of them. and then just go ahead and grab the top ones that you'll need. Now you kind of see why we make that folder at the top, just with the collapsed version of the maps, just to make it really easy to grab exactly what you need instead of trying to fish through. So we have that stuff. Press OK. And if you see here, we have it over here, and we have it over here. We will go ahead and remove these maps from here for now, because we're not going to exactly worry about them. You'll find out why in a minute. Alright. So now, we're gonna work like we kind of talked about, working in stages. We're not going to put everything in one graph. We're going to build graph upon graph upon graph to make this. Now in this case, for the simple example and walkthrough, probably only going to be making 2 graphs to create this template. So we need to start with base materials. When we have everything here, we have our mesh. We can go ahead and drag and drop it in here. Materials, let's go ahead and make sure it's set properly, physically based. Okay. Let's go ahead and turn off After Effects, turn off that stuff, turn off our grid. Alright, so let's go ahead and make a new graph already. Alright, File New. We're going to call this our base materials. Call it Wall Base Materials. Oops. 512 by 512, that's fine. Alright, again I accidentally forgot to change it. Alright, so now we have 2 graphs. So we're going to slide this graph up. There we go. Because it'll be the first graph we're working with. Now I am going to cheat a little bit here because I have some of the stuff pre-made, but I will go over how to do it. Actually no, I won't cheat. So you're going to make your base materials, okay, however you want to make them. In my case, I have them pre-made. So we go to my base substance, and I have some of our base materials here. I'll grab our paints, and I'll grab our metals. Now these little packages hold all of our base materials. So in this case, if you've made any base materials at this point, bring them in, or start building them in another graph. But I'm not going to go over that because we went over that in the basic guide. Next, we're going to want our multi-material blend. Why do we want this? Because this is how we're going to blend all these together. Okay? So let's decide how many materials we're using. Now I already made a material mask. Okay, this map here. Excuse me, I have to sneeze 1 sec. Alright, so this already has values on it in the separation of what we want. So you could create these colors on the fly and create them this way. In this case, for this one, since these are saved colors, I already have, if we come over here to our templates, for me anyways, I already have a base one, which is what we're going to be creating here in a second. If I plug this mask into it, it's already going to mask out all of our colors. If I can show you how to actually make this, so we'll go ahead and delete that. Alright, so whatever values you've chosen here, know how many you have. Now in this case I know we have 3 metals, actually more than that. We have quite a few metals and 2 paints. So let's go ahead and duplicate these paints, like so. I have dull paint, which is purple, and I have shiny paint, which is the pink. Okay, so that's 2 of them. Then we have chrome, which is going to be this shiny blue. And we have shiny metal. And we have brushed metal. And we have polished metal. Okay. So now we know how many things we have. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have 6 materials. So we're going to come here and make 6 materials. Okay. In my case, I would actually want to make 7. Because like I said, you can't dictate the color of number 1. So what we're going to do is create 7 of these. And then find nothing. I actually have a material called nothing, which is literally Nothing. There's no information in it. We'll go ahead and connect that there. While we're here, let's choose what colors we're going to use. We're going to use normal. Actually, no normal yet. No specular, no glossiness. No ambient occlusion, no height. Alright, so let's go ahead and uncollapse this, make sure it's all connected right. Diffuse, normal. Take out the normal. Alright, good to go. So let's go ahead and reconnect everything else. So here goes our first metal, second metal, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. Alright, so as you see, these are really small, 16 by 16. If you are using a material with information in it, you should make it whatever size you need it to be at to look properly. In this case, since we're only using solid color, the most cost-efficient way of using it is at 16 by 16 pixels. It's the most... I don't know why any smaller and it starts to work less. This is just... Wes told me, so I'm going with it. Alright, and let's go ahead and make output nodes. Alright, oops, we didn't want our hidden ones. Alright, so there goes what our three outputs are going to be. We're going to need a diffuse, a roughness, and a metallic. Okay? So now let's start dictating what colors go where. So channel 2 is going to be this first channel here, material 2. Alright? So you can either select it based on here. Now I know that these colors are actually what the mask color is. I did that on purpose. So we are going to go ahead and go back to here, go to color, go to pick. I'm going to pick this color. Actually, let me connect this so you can see it working. Or not working. Alright, let's go to our next color, material 3. Which is going to be this guy. Go here, pick. And let's go up to Chrome, which is going to be material 4. Alright, material 5, which is going to be this guy. Material 6. As you see, this part does take a while, but it's a one-time thing, you know. And if you have this preset, like I said, I was going to cheat with the other node, but decided to show you how to do it. It can be very quick. It's one of those things, again, spend a little bit of time now, save yourself a whole bunch of time later. Now, for some reason, it's not showing anything. So let's disconnect that. Reconnect. Interesting. So, things that could be a problem. The color could be slightly off because the pixels are so small. So let's start with that. Alright, let's go here. Pick. Yep. See, it's a pixel off. So if we go there, turn that off. Nope, still not showing. Interesting. Why are you broken? We're off to a great start, but I want to show you how we problem solve. Alright, so we checked the color. We saw it was slightly off. Let's check the purple color real quick. Material 6. says it's 106.70, 142. So this is a pixel off. So let's go ahead and grab that. Let's see if that fixes. No, it doesn't. Interesting. Let's grab a new material blend. Let's try a test here. Okay. I'm just going to use 2 channels real quick. Give me this purple color. Pick.
You typed it in last time, you just typed it in. It seems like, hey, I didn't do anything. And we're not going back and changing anything? If anything, what we can do is...
1 second. I guess I am going to pause it. Alright, all I did was restart and it worked. So if you run into that problem, I guess that's how you're going to fix it. I've never seen it happen like that. Not sure what I did. Maybe too much recording for the day just made it unhappy. I don't know. Alright, so now we have our base material sitting here. Let's go ahead and bring in our normal map just for now. We'll clear it later. So let's go ahead and make a new output. This will be normal. Alright, let's go and view all this. Alright, so now we're going to adjust all of our colors. So we have all of our base substance colors here. And now let's go ahead and add what we want. So the paint. Let's start with the purple. Make something like desaturated green type thing. Sure. Alright. For that pink thing on the top, I'm thinking blue. I kind of like that. Something like that, maybe. Alright. Chrome, that's an easy change. Now at this point for PBR, yes, there are certain value ranges you need to do or not do. In this case, or eyeballing it. Just for you to get used to making a template. So, one of the things is to think about when you're doing this is you can make a template based off an asset and then use that as basically your gold standard. Like, all right, I made this asset look like this. I want other assets to look like this. So right now we're just kind of creating a graph. Then we're going to go back and I'm going to show you how to actually take it from just a crazy graph to a template with inputs and things like that. So next we have, what is this, our shiny metal, which I think is this outer border. Yep. I want something kind of warm. This is a metal, so you have to remember it'll take on the colors. I want a little brighter than that. Something like that. Sure. One of the problems, you're going to mess around a lot sometimes. Alright, next we have brushed metal. So that's that plate down there, there, and there. Just go to make those dark metal plates. Alright, and lastly, we have these teeth. Those up there. I believe. Maybe. Yep. Alright, so these are like little vent grates. Something like that. Alright, so go ahead and mess with it. Once you are happy with whatever colors you choose, like I'm not liking this weird color here. Yeah. I always like colder metals. Something like that, which means I would change the color of this. Alright, let's do something like that. Alright, that's pretty much it. You want to set up this. This is your first graph. Okay, this is your first template. You went ahead and separated out your colors, decided what you're going to be. These black lines will be emissives, which we'll probably handle later. We could handle them now if we so choose, but in this case, we'll handle it probably at the end for the emissives. So what you want to do last, before we take this video off, is you're going to go back to your tech wall. Okay, actually, let's go and delete this normal map. Go back to your tech wall. Okay, you're going to drag and drop your wall base material into this graph. Okay, connect it. Like so. I'm going to grab those, separate it from that. And then we'll go ahead and drag our normal map into here. Like that. Alright, so the reason why we did that is to make it easier to work in this file. So now all of our base materials are handled here. And now we can start working on all of our effects and overlays that we want to have happened. Lastly, why don't we actually deal with... Yeah, sure. Why don't we deal with the last base color of our emissives, okay? So we're going to go ahead and grab our E map, or our emissive, change it to grayscale. So this is masking out what I want to be emissives. Go ahead and hit spacebar. We're going to be blending it with an AO. Go ahead and bring your AO in. You're going to be using it later anyways. Let's go ahead and multiply. And why am I doing this? Because I want some of the shading. Okay. Then I'm going to blend this with a color. So actually we're going to have to put a gradient map in there. Solid color. Multiply. Alright, so now we have our color. Let's do... I don't know yet. That's probably going to look like butt. This AO is way too much influence. Let's drop it down a bit. Alright, lastly we will need to make an emissive output. So we'll go here, output, add, emissive. Okay. So now we have our emissive. So now it knows what's glowing. So we can actually play around with that AO like I was saying. All the people coughing. Let's go to make this like a blue, like a light color. I will say the emissive rendering in Substance is not amazing. But they have it, so it's definitely a plus. So we just want the base color there for now. We could have done this in the other graph if you wanted to just do the base color and mask it out. But I'm going to show you why later on we ended up doing it this way. There is methods to my madness. Most of the time. Alright. So that concludes all of our base colors. We got all of our base stuff down. Alright. And the beginning of our template made. So once you get to this point, hopefully there'll be another video up. have fun with this. Next up, we're going to start actually adding texture to each of these. And then once we do that, we'll go into how to transform it into an actual usable template. Enjoy. If you have any questions, let me know. I'll be adding a link below for this file and the Photoshop file that has those basic maps in it. Enjoy.